Old Man Winter has returned. I knew it wouldn't last. Yep, I went to breakfast this morning in town. I probably shouldn't have, because this is way worse than what the weatherman was expecting. I came out to the shop to check on things because the way my roof is loose out here, it actually snows inside the shop sometimes, but it's not too bad. I don't have a pile in here, but you can see where it comes in underneath and around the door. When we get roll-up doors one of these days, that'll eliminate that problem. But it's a winter wonderland out here again. And those all piled up on the greenhouse where our parts are. I got probably a foot of snow drift on the back of the shop up here. We need the moisture though, and this won't last too long. Pups, you don't want to go outside right now. It's a little snowy out there. Well, Brandy went out, but Ruby said, nope, not doing it. Huh. Not doing it. Want to go out? You're crazy, Dad. Well, your sister picked a heck of a day to go out exploring. She'll be back soon. What do you think? Where have you been, pup? Cold out there? You stayed out a long time. Now, it's not terrible cold. It's only in the low 20s, and people in the Midwest can do low 20s in a t-shirt, especially if the sun's out. But I know some of you think I'm crazy for saying that. It looks like we're going to do all inside stuff today, because not much to do outside unless it stops snowing. Now, I knocked all the snow off of Kelly's vehicle this morning and actually shoveled a little path to it for her so her shoes wouldn't get all packed full of snow. But after I got into town, I text messaged her and I said, hey, maybe you better call it quits today or go in later. I think she took that as a challenge because she went to work anyway. But she's from Illinois originally, so she's a really good bad weather driver. So I don't worry too much about it. Now, I watched her all the way to work on my phone, made sure she got there safe, because we share each other's location on Google Maps. You can do that. And had a lot of guys tell me, I can't believe you share your location with your wife. I'm like, what do you got to hide? You're wanting to hide your location from your wife. You got bigger issues than most people have. So I got an idea what we can do today. I was going through stuff that I had moved out of Mom's apartment when she moved up to the nursing home. And her recipe box, I got it out because I need to send it out to my niece in California. But how about if we go through Mom's recipe box, find a recipe we want to make today? That sound like a good deal? Here's Mom's recipe box, kind of crude, but she's got dividers in here, and this is a collection of all her recipes. Now, at one point, we took all these recipes and we put them in a book. I'll show you the book real quick. Here's Mom's recipe book I did for her. It's a pretty thick book. Got family picture on the back. And then she wrote in here for me because she bought all of her kids and grandkids a copy of the book. Got a picture of my dad in here. It's dedicated to my dad. But got all of her favorite recipes in here in the book. Pretty cool. We did it on a website called Blurb, where you can come up with a document or whatever and send it in and they make a book out of it. This book was over $100 each because it gets pretty expensive to publish your own book. But it's a good hardback book. It'll last a long time. So let's go through this box and find a recipe we want to do. Alright folks, we came up with a couple recipes that sound interesting. One is for chili Colorado, which is one of my favorite dishes in the whole world when it comes to Mexican food. And then I found another recipe for squaw bread, which I'm assuming is like an Indian fry bread. And I think these two recipes might go pretty well together. Now I've since learned as an adult that the term squaw is a no-no in the Native American language. I had a Native American lady that I worked with for years, and I used the term squaw one day, and she got real offended, and she said squaw is a derogatory term for females in the Native American world. So I have since not used that word. So if you didn't know, don't ever use that word to a Native American. It's not a favorable term. So we're going to try this Indian fry bread with our chili Colorado. We'll probably make the fry bread first because that can make ahead, of course. And then the chili Colorado, we won't have to wait too long because it probably needs to simmer for a couple hours to get tender. So I think that'll be a good combo. Also, we got a delivery in the mail yesterday of an American flag. We fly a flag out front every day. And last time we got a flag, we were ready for a new flag. This time, I bought a really expensive flag, and it's been lasting a long time. And I don't know who sent this. There was not a return address other than it was just an address in Oklahoma. There was no name to it. I don't know if our friends Matt and Sam sent it to us or who it was, but whoever it was, thank you very much. We definitely use American flags. All right, let's start with our fry bread now. Pretty straightforward recipe. We're starting out with 2 cups of flour. Now to that, we're going to add a half a teaspoon of baking powder. One teaspoon of salt. So we're going to add 2 half teaspoons, obviously. And I heap them up a little bit because we're using the kosher. Now, as per usual, we will combine our dry ingredients, all 3 of them. And then the recipe says to use a sufficient amount of milk. Doesn't give a specific amount. So we're going to slowly add the milk like we did in our bread recipe the other day until we get a good looking dough. And we'll show you what that looks like. Okay, here's our dough. It's about like biscuit dough. It's just barely sticky. Now, these marks on our jar are cups, and we started right here. So we've used just under a cup, maybe about 3/4. But this is what you want to look like. I ended up using my hands to combine the rest of the flour because I didn't want to get too sticky. But that looks about right to me. It has just come together. So we'll split this into portions. We'll decide how many portions. And we'll get these rolled out. Now, before we get too serious about rolling our fry bread out, I'm going to get our skillet ready so our fry bread's not drying out. It says to fry it in 1/4 inch of oil. It does not give a temperature, but I don't want them greasy, so I know for them not to be greasy, we need to fry it at least 375 degrees. And that's why I use my electric skillet, so we don't have to worry about that. Got a little flour on the handle. So this will maintain the temperature we want. We'll get some oil in here. So let's start to portion. We'll get just a dusting of flour here on our surface. And then before I actually put it down in there, we'll roll our dough out kind of into a log. It'll make it easier to portion it. We want to do it in even pieces as much as we can. So it looks about good there. Now this recipe to me seems almost like a flour tortilla recipe. So we have about the same size log all the way across. So let's get a knife and cut this into equal pieces. And we use Kelly's dough scraper that she uses for her sourdough bread. Now I always start off just by cutting something in half, and then we'll do that again and again. I'm guessing about 8 pieces. So we'll cut all these pieces in half, and that should give us just about equal size bread pieces, or fry bread pieces, about like that. Now we'll move these off to the side here, and then we can start rolling these out. I'll make that into a ball so it rolls out nice and round. Now people, anybody that have made tortillas or pizza crust, pie dough, they'll tell you the hardest thing to do is to keep them round. Try every trick in the book to keep them round. Pat them out ahead of time on the board. Still doesn't always come out round. It's quite a skill to keep things round. Well, we didn't do too bad with this one. Pretty round. Now our oil's nice and ready. We got them all rolled out real nice. This should not take very long, because if you cook them too long, they're going to get crispy on you, and we don't want that. So let's throw our first one in here. Poke the middle down a little bit. See how it's bubbling up real nice? You can feel it firming up just a little bit. I think at this point we can flip it over. You don't really want to go to golden brown, because again, you want it to be pliable. But I think right there, that'll do it. We're going to take it out. And then we have our pan here. Throw the next one in. Feels like it's firm. Let's give it a flip. I think we're done. We'll come back when we got them all done. We've got all our fry bread done, and I'm curious, and hopefully we don't kill the cat here. I've got a normal flour tortilla, and they're rolled out to about the same thickness. We're going to see if we can shortcut the fry bread recipe by frying one of these. I know what it'll turn out to if we get golden brown, because I've made tostadas with these before. But let's see what happens when we cook one just as we do one of these fry bread. Maybe if you guys get a little scared to make the fry bread, maybe this will be a good shortcut for you. Let's flip it. Looks like a tortilla. We want to make it the same consistency as our fry bread. Want them to puff up like a pita pocket. So that's it. Let's take it out. We got a tortilla container here that we're going to use. We got our fry bread in there. And we're going to put the lid on it to keep it from drying out. Let's check out our flour tortilla. It's pliable, just like the fry bread. So, might be a good shortcut for you folks, as long as you don't fry it too long. Because if you do, it's going to crack like a cracker. So we're right on the verge of doing that. But, cool. Okay, fry bread is complete. Let me clean up my fry bread stuff. We'll get going on our chili Colorado. Now hear me now and believe me later. There's absolutely nothing that takes the joy out of cooking more than looking at a blown up kitchen when you're done. I always try to get things tidied up as I go. That way I don't spend half the night in here trying to clean the kitchen up. It just doesn't make it enjoyable. Now some of you may not say it, but you may be thinking it. Why doesn't Kelly help with that? Well, Kelly works full time. I'm retired, so I try to have dinner on the table when she comes home. And I can't always do that because sometimes I spend way too much time out in the shop, but then I take her out to dinner or I whip up something fast out of the pantry if that's the case. But everybody should be doing their part, folks. Now that doesn't mean I absolutely do everything. Kelly still does a lot. She works full time. She'll come home. She cleans the house. She does all the laundry and puts it away. Even after working a full schedule at work, she's the one that mows the lawn most of the time. And even when I try to help her do that, she's like, leave my lawn alone. She still does all her flowers and stuff outside. We have a absolutely fantastic partnership, and I could not ask for a better woman on this farm. All right, on to the chili Colorado. We got about 3 hours till supper. So we're going to take about a 3-pound round roast. Actually, it's about 3.5 pounds. We're going to trim some of this fat off of here because we just don't need it. So we're going to end up with just a little over 3 pounds. And I'm using rump roast, basically round roast, because it's nice and lean. We don't want a bunch of fat in our chili Colorado. So now we're going to cut this into about 1-inch chunks. So we'll make a 1-inch slice here. And then once we get this all sliced up, we'll make 1-inch slices again, and then we'll cut across this way 1 inch. Then we'll have it. Now I think another thing that would probably be fantastic with this fry bread would be my sister Vicky's hot meat. We've made that before here on the channel. It's in our recipes playlist. Made out of pork. And just phenomenal stuff. So give that a try. Check that out. It's really easy to make and really, really good. Now to our meat, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of flour. We're going to work that into the meat. Don't worry about it not being seasoned flour, because there's going to be plenty of spice into this mix. So we'll just work this around in the flour, trying to keep it all in the dish here. Got all of our meat coated, so let's get our pot ready to go. Now I got over here getting ready to put my Dutch oven to good use, and I got to seeing this skillet here, and I'm like, why don't I use the skillet? It's already dirty. Why dirty another pot? Normally I would put this in the oven after everything comes together, but we can lower the temp on this to about 250 degrees and just let it simmer. So why wouldn't that work? So I'm going to get most of this oil out of here. We're just going to use this because there's more surface area. We need to cook our meat quickly and hot so we don't let the juices accumulate. And I think in our pot we'd have to do it in several batches. We might be able to do it all in one batch in this skillet. Alright, got most of our oil drained out. Recipe calls for 1/4 cup of oil, so we left that in here. We still got that little bit of flour from our Indian fry bread, so that'd be sweet. So we're going to fire it back up to 375. We want this thing nice and hot, almost to smoking before we put the meat in. Alright, our oil's shimmering. I think we can get our meat in here. Yep, she's frying. And try to get it in one layer all the way across here. Got all of our meat in. We had some flour left over in the pan. We're not going to get rid of this. Right before we dump our liquid in, we'll put the rest of this flour in here because we want all of this that the recipe calls for. Now as this cooks, you just want to flip it around a little bit. You do not want to put a lid on this. You want all that moisture to steam off. I don't know if you can see the steam coming off over here. But that's what we want. We don't want a bunch of moisture in the pan, otherwise your meat is not going to brown. Okay, our meat was nice and brown. We dumped in the rest of our flour and 2 cups of water. And then right after that, when you add spices, we've added 5 teaspoons of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of cumin, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and gave it a stir. Now we're going to add a whole 6-ounce can of tomato paste. Put the whole thing in there. So we'll stir that tomato paste into the mix. It might be easier to stir your tomato paste in with the water before you add it in. Reduce it or water it down a little bit. But this will stir in just fine. You can see how that's getting thick. Looking beautiful. Now at the end we're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to taste, but we don't want to do that too early on because as we lose liquid in this mix as it simmers, the flavor is going to get intensified. So if you add your salt and pepper to taste too early, it might be too much at the end. Okay, we've got everything stirred in. We're going to put a lid on this. We've got it on a low simmer is what we want. Now I'm guessing this is going to take about 1.5 hours to 2 hours to cook. But we'll come back and we'll stir this about every 20 minutes or so. Now as this cooks, the meat is going to release its moisture into the pan. So early on we don't have to worry about getting too dry. But later on in the process, if the mix starts getting too dry, just add a little bit more water. I think we're going to be okay though. So we'll come back in a little bit and we'll show you what it looks like after a while. We're just going till the meat's going to be tender and then we'll be done. Now while we're waiting for this to cook, we'll show you these recipes. So if you want to screenshot them and print them out, you can do that. Here's the fry bread recipe. And here is the chili Colorado recipe. Now we've always written down recipes. The capital T is tablespoons, lowercase t is teaspoons. So you can tell the difference there. We're about 45 minutes in. Looks like we got plenty of liquid in here still. And we're not sticking to the bottom. It's a non-stick electric skillet, so that helps. Boy, what a difference a few hours makes. The sun came out. We've already lost like 2 inches of our snow that we got. The driveway's melting off already. Turned out to be a beautiful day. Okay, this has been simmering for 2 hours. You can see it's gotten a little bit thicker. So I tasted a piece of meat. It's perfectly tender but not falling apart, which is really good. That's what we're looking for. It does need a little bit of salt though, so we're going to add about a teaspoon of salt to the mix and see how that goes. A teaspoon of salt was perfect, so we've unplugged this. As this cools a little bit, this sauce is going to thicken. So we don't have to worry about cooking this down at all. This is perfect. So just got to wait for Kelly to get home. She'll be here about 15-20 minutes. We'll be ready to eat. Alright, you can see how beautiful thick that is. It's gorgeous. Let's make some supper. All the fry bread tacos I've ever had, the fry bread was way too thick. Look how beautifully thin these are, because we rolled them out super thin. So good. Alright folks, that's a wrap on another fantastic meal. Love those recipes. Definitely going to keep those around. And now they're memorialized, well, for as long as YouTube lasts. So don't know how long that'll be. But hope you enjoy this. I hope you try it. Super good stuff. Definitely going to make that fry bread again. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here at Markelly Farm, where the content is always free.